Hello, my name is Malcolm Gladden, and this is Solo Production.
Solo Production.
Solo Production.
Solo Production.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nate Patterson, and welcome to Solo Productions Online.
And do something for myself.
Some like it black,
out of myself.
cause they say that's where it's at, and it's a natural fact. Some like it black, where we could be free, peace, love, and spirituality. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like our music, some like our style, how we flow in any type of crowd. Some like our women, some like our men, strong features, African. How we blow our horn and dance to the beat, how we play the drums and take it to the street. Some like our hair, can't figure it out, asking all type of questions, trying to figure it out. Like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing.
The first time I met King was in 1954. He came to Dexter, he had a PhD, and everybody's a gag. All the teachers especially, people who, well, I never thought that degrees made anybody. I don't now. Nor do I decry them. I believe in education, totally. But King had to come to Birmingham to speak to some, I don't know what it was it teachers, a fraternity, or sorority, I don't know what it was. But the whole time was a gag with him coming. And when he got to Birmingham, he wanted to meet me, because I was the one that's pushing up dust in Birmingham. And he came over. King was late then. He should have been at the meeting, but he's always late. Lateness was a part of his life. Looked like. He came over, and we didn't talk that long because he had to go, but he just wanted to meet me. And we were talking about, one of the things that impressed me with him, he wasn't talking about his degrees, nor was he talking about philosophy that much. We both agreed that segregation was wrong, and that the black population especially had been debilitated by not having opportunity, not being allowed. And we agreed on that. And we agreed that something ought to be done, and that maybe in God's time. And you must remember that the Supreme Court decision had come down. See, that made me feel like I was a man at last, that I had, almost like I had got a new religion. I think it had done it in his life as well. We were different people. We weren't real close in the sense, Ralph and he were friends, like they lived together. But I respected him because he was against segregation. And I could work with anybody who believed segregation was wrong.
Do you sometimes get disturbed at the perception that some people have that, I mean, the whole movement centered around Dr. King, whereas you were, in fact, doing, leading a movement before Dr. King, was even in the area?
No, I don't. I'm never envious of what other people have or get or positions. I always am hopeful that when you get in a position, feel the position. If you put a little man in a big place and he doesn't see anything, he makes the place little. I'm sure that's going to happen in our country now. But you can put and everybody, most people seek to be big, but bigness to me involves service, fairness, doing what you know you ought to do, whether or not other people do what they're supposed to do. Before you got here today, I was called by one of my co-workers, been working in the Southern Organizing Committee, and I was telling her that you're being the leader of this. You can't deal with the skirmishes between people. There's always going to be skirmishes. Everything starts off around something good. Don't you know everybody prays over any organization you find? If it's a spitting committee, you need God dedicate this that we might spit right or that we might walk right. But after a while, when the committee gets going or when the program gets going, it becomes less like God and more like us. That's why things fail. I have always tried to speak not my own mind, but in a nice way about mom, because I think people ought to respect what God has done for them. I think Martin was God's spokesman to the country. His task was not mine. I'm a battlefield type general. I lead troops to battle. When Martin had to be pushed, he was very slow. He agonized, and one of his problems, I thought, was that he hated to hurt people's feelings. Now, my mother didn't mind hurting my feelings. You know what I'm talking about. I always explained. And that helped me. And I think sometimes his problems were that. And I'll give you an instance. Well, there are several, but this is one I think is good. We were in Selma, Alabama, and inspiring the people to come to the courthouse, you know. Remember C.T. Vivian was struck by Jim Clark, and they were beating heck out of the young people there, you know. And Martin was in Montgomery, and Bevel, who is brilliant in this with kids, the federal judge said that if you come to get in line, you're going to have to go way back to the end line tomorrow. Might be hundreds of people there. And Bevel, which he was right, I guess, in one way. Hell, I don't need no federal judge to tell me my right. Blah, 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 blah. We don't, but there was a victory then, you see. Mm-hmm. So Martin had stayed in Montgomery. I believe this was the second night. And the third night, he asked me to go to Selma. And I said to him, now, Martin, I know you hate to go and overrule Bill, but you're going to have to. Well, I said, no, I'm telling you. I said, now, I'll go, but I will tell him you'll be there tomorrow night.
So he had to be pushed.
And some of the letters I wrote him, earlier they have them, I was writing that good speeches don't make good action. But I think he grew into what he had to do. I still believe if Martin and Ralph had come back to Birmingham, we could have helped to solve the problem of integration by getting everybody to register for school so people would grow up together. White flight would, see, everybody can't buy a mortgage, you know, get a mortgage. Mm-hmm. And this just came to me, and I think if I had to do it all over again, I'd find some way, I guess I would, to do that. I didn't give a slap happy about what anybody thought about me. I don't, in my church right now, I tell them the world is my pulpit. If I had a choice of this pulpit or done what God told me to do in the world, I'd do it. Therefore, my yea is yea, my nay is nay, and after that ain't nothing but hell nay. I think people ought to live that way. And then you don't have to be cussing people out. I use the word hell for positive emphasis. I'm not cussing. But I think people ought to be more committed to what they are, what they say, and recognize. And I say to students sometimes, I say, now, you know, God made us just a little lower than angels. How in the world did we get so bad, so messed up? It makes them think, you know. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, maybe somebody ought to start thinking about how we got off and how we'll get back close. And you know, it's an amazing thing. I did not expect to live to get 40 years old in the Deep South. I expected to get killed. Martin, all of them expected me to get killed in Birmingham before anybody else. And here I am, double 40, and still going. Mm-hmm. But I think people need more teaching, although they're not going to accept it. But God knows He doesn't need all the rain that He sends down, but He sends it copiously. And so people, another thing that I would think, and I mentioned to you about the schools a while ago, is that we have to understand that the government cannot portray Martin Luther King. And people now have to remember that there was no money back there. People get money now, they become this, and we get to arguing all that. Everybody's wondering about what he's going to get out of it. It isn't what I'm going to get out of it, it's what I'm going to put in it that counts. And people lived in the olden days. I guess that's why the Bible says, seek the old path. They lived for what they could give, what they could do. And they're living now, this materialistic age, Martin called it, is what can I get out of it? You'd be surprised if you saw my record, what I put in my church. It isn't, because money, what that old saying, if money was a thing religion could buy, but rich would live and the poor would die. You can't buy some people. And I don't think you can buy principle. I think between principle and politics, people ought to choose principle. And I realize we're in a political situation. You have to wheel and deal. L.B. Day was a great wheeler and dealer, you know. But I think with the right kind of religion, you can deal when you need to deal and wheel when you need to wheel. You just keep your eyes on the prize.
When I was coming up back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it was popular to be black. We were proud to be black. Our battle cry was, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud, started by the brother James Brown. Angela Davis, Huey Newton, Stokely Carmichael, Eldridge Cleaver, all these people inspired us to be black and love ourselves as being black.
Some like I had can't figure it out, asking all type of questions trying to figure it out. Like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like our booty, some like our lips, some like the way we dip, some like our hip and some like our hop, some like the way we bop. Now we're playing tennis and playing golf, ain't no stopping us, we so raw. Some like our jazz and some like our scat, some like the way we rap, some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it, say it, say it, say it, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Some like it black, no sugar, no.
Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day, while the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor. He was telling you to build your own house.
He expelled fear for African Americans. He says, I will speak out loud what we've been thinking. And he said, you'll see. People will hear it, and they will not do anything to us necessarily, okay? But I will now speak it for the masses of people. When he said it in a very strong fashion, in this very manly fashion, in this fashion that says, I am not afraid to say what you've been thinking all these years, that's why we loved him. He said it out loud, not behind closed doors. He took on America for us.
And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough. If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk, why, you're the one that make it hard for yourself. The white man believes you when you go to him with that old sweet talk, because you've been sweet-talking him ever since he brought you here. Stop sweet-talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
125th Street and 7th Avenue was the center of activity among the black street orators. When Malcolm arrived, technically he had no corner. So he established his base, you might say, in front of Elder Mishaw's bookstore.
When Malcolm would ascend the little platform, he couldn't talk for the first 4 or 5 minutes. The people would be making such a praise shout to him. And he would stand there, taking his due. And then he would open his mouth.
They call Mr. Muhammad a hate teacher because he makes you hate dope and alcohol. They call Mr. Muhammad a black supremacist because he teaches you and me not only that we're as good as the white man, but better than the white man. Yes, better than the white man. You are better than the white man. And that's not saying anything. That's not saying, you know where just to be equal with him. Who is he to be equal with? You look at his skin. You can't compare your skin with his skin. Why, your skin look like gold beside his skin. There was a time when we used to drool in the mouth over white people. We thought they were pretty because we were blind. We were dumb. We couldn't see them as they are. But since the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has come and taught us the religion of Islam, which has cleaned us up and made us so we can see for ourselves, now we can see that old pale thing to look exactly as he looked. Nothing but an old pale thing.
I came away from that rally feeling that with him, once you heard him speak, you never went back to where you were before. You had to, even if you kept your position, you had to rethink it.
When he came off the stage, I jumped off the island, walked up to him, and of course when I got to him, the bodyguards, moved in front, and he just pushed them away, and I went in front of him and extended my hand and said, I liked some of what you said. I didn't agree with all that you said, but I liked some of what you said. And he looked at me, held my hand in a very gentle fashion, and says, one day you will, sister. One day you will, sister. And he smiled.
To make his message clear, Malcolm used his own life as a lesson for all Black Americans. He preached it in fables and parables. And later, in writing his autobiography with Alex Haley, he sought some control over how his life would be interpreted in the future.
I would be rather taken by a statement he would make of himself. He would say, I am a part of all I have met. And by that he meant that all the things he had done in his earlier life had exposed him to things, had taught him skills of one another sort of, all of which had synthesized into the Malcolm who became the spokesman for the Nation of Islam.
You were born in Omaha, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And your family left Omaha when you were, what, 1 year old?
I imagine about a year old.
And why did they leave Omaha?
Well, to my understanding, the Ku Klux Klan burned down one of their homes in Omaha. They had a lot of Ku Klux
This made your family feel very unhappy, I'm sure.
Well, insecure, if not unhappy.
So you must have a somewhat prejudiced point of view, a personally prejudiced point of view. In other words, you cannot look at this in a broad academic sort of way, really.
I think that's incorrect, because despite the fact that that happened in Omaha, and then when we moved to Lansing, Michigan, our home was burned down again. In fact, my father was killed by the Ku Klux Klan. And despite all of that, no one was more thoroughly integrated with whites than I. No one has lived more so in the society of whites than I.
We were the only black children in the neighborhood. But on the back of our property, we had a wooded area. So the white kids would all come over to our house and they'd go back and play in the woods. So Malcolm would say, well, let's go play Robin Hood. Well, so we'd go back there to play Robin Hood. Robin Hood was Malcolm. And these white kids would go along with it.
Malcolm said he was the lightest skinned of the 7 children born to Earl and Louise Little. A reminder, he said, of the white man who had raped his mother's mother.
In the past, the greatest weapon the white man has had has been his ability to divide and conquer. If I take my hand and slap you, you don't even feel it. It might sting you because these digits are separated. But all I have to do to put you back in your place is bring those digits together. You have once been a criminal. There's no disgrace. To remain a criminal is the disgrace. I formerly was a criminal. I formerly was in prison. I'm not ashamed of that. You never can use that over my head. And that he's using the wrong stick. I don't feel that stick. They charged Jesus with sedition. Didn't they do that? They said he was against Caesar. They said he was discriminating because he told his disciples, go not the way of the Gentiles, but rather go to the lost sheep. Go to the people who don't know who they are, who are lost from the knowledge of themselves, and who are strangers in a land that is not theirs. Go to those people. Go to the slaves. Go to the second-class citizens. Go to the ones who are suffering the brunt of Caesar's brutality. And if Jesus were here in America today, he wouldn't be going to the white man. The white man is the oppressor. He would be going to the oppressed. He would be going to the humble. He would be going to the lowly. He would be going to the rejected and the despised. He would be going to the so-called American Negro.
How did you happen to join the Muslim movement?
I was in prison. I was a very wayward, criminal, backward, illiterate, uneducated, and whatever other negative characteristics you can think of type of person until I heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And because of the impact that it had upon me in giving me a desire to reform myself and rehabilitate myself for the first time in my life, and also being able to see the effect that it had upon others, this is what made me accept it. And I noticed that after being exposed to the religious teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, immediately it instilled within me such a high degree of racial pride and racial dignity that I wanted to be somebody, and I realized that I couldn't be anybody by begging the white man for what he had, but that I had to get out here and try and do something for myself.
Some like
or
it
make
black,
something out of myself.
'cause they say that's where it's at, and it's a natural fact. Some like it black, where we could be free, peace, love, and spirituality. No sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like our music, some like our style, how we flow in any type of crowd. Some like our women, some like our men, strong features, African. How we blow our horn and dance to the beat, how we play the drums and take it to the street. Some like our hair, can't figure it out, asking all type of questions, trying to figure it out. Like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like our booty, some like our lips, some like the way we dip. Some like our hip and some like our hop, some like the way we bop. Now we're playing tennis and playing golf, ain't no stopping us, we so raw. Some like our jazz and some like our scat, some like the way we rap. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it, say it, say it, say it, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black, no sugar, no cream, they just want the real thing. Some like it black. Some like it black, where we could be free, peace, love, and spirit.